Hello, everybody. My name is Dudley Headley, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. Earlier this week, I caught up with the one and only MrBadBit, host of the Trophy Room podcast, and we had a really good conversation about what it means for Xbox publishing Halo on PlayStation, following more of the rumors that we've seen come out this week, which have been corroborated by all the reliable insiders, which means it's most likely happening. I'm not going to waste any of your time. We're just going to get straight into it. This is Halo on PS5, a candid conversation with an Xbox fan. Enjoy.
And alongside me to talk about this Xbox news, you could see his words over on Xbox Era. You could hear his lovely voice over on Deadly Headley on YouTube. Our good friend, Matt, aka Mr. Deadly Headley himself. How are you, sir?
Hello, mate. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic because
Good.
this type of topic we talk about a lot on the trophy room, and Kyle and I have been at kind of at this point a loss for words because there's only so many times these rumors happen, and then we're starting to see the trickle of these games start to release on PlayStation. And so now that we have yet again another rumor, another couple of claims saying that Xbox is sending some games over to PlayStation this time, some of their biggest. Well,
Mm.
I had to get a reasonable Xbox voice on to chat about it. So I was like, none other than Mr. Deadly Headley, and what a name that is. So thank you so much for joining us, my friend.
It is a privilege and an honor just to get my Xbox player card out of the way. I also play on PlayStation. Look, let me prove it.
Oh, what? What do you got there?
Ta-da!
Oh, you got the
PlayStation
30th
memorabilia.
anniversary. There you go. There you go. No, and it's the great thing about what like we do here before we get right into it is that we're here to cover the ecosystem. We're not here to
Mm,
cheerlead for it. And
absolutely.
with that said, I want to get into this news, and again, I want your insight because we don't cover Xbox over here as much. So let's
Hmm.
get right into it. I'm going to read the news instead of Kyle, who is sitting out for this topic. So that said, this comes from Michael Ruiz over at PlayStation Lifestyles. They say the next Xbox games coming to PS5 leaked by Insider. A duo of Xbox exclusive titles are reportedly coming to PS5 later this year, according from industry insider Nate Drake. Both these games are incredibly popular within the PlayStation player base, with one of them featuring what many would consider the platform's mascot. Nate the Hate podcast, Nate claims that there will be more Xbox games coming multi-platform. He clarifies this beyond the quote expected games like Doom, The Dark Ages, and Outer Worlds 2. Quote, so games I've heard that will release multi-platform in 2025, beyond the obvious that include Flight Simulator coming to PS5 and Switch 2, and Halo, the Master Chief Collection, will be coming to PS5 and Switch 2 as well. The next bit, he claims, is a bit more speculative because it hasn't been revealed in any capacity yet. He also states that the rumored Gears of War collection does exist. It would be a day one launch for PS5. Really, this statement is to complement the point that they believe any Xbox game that releases in 2025 will find its way on PS5. Whether it's a day one or staggered release, it is unknown, but there is a good chance that this varies depending on the game. Halo's arrival on PlayStation platform has been speculative for quite some time now. Earlier last year, Xbox boss Peter Moore said that they believe conversations about PlayStation port of Halo were happening. Other insiders claim that the Master Chief would make it onto PlayStation in some form, including a new remaster of the first entry. The other included rumors are Forza and Hellblade 2. Last but not leastly, and this kind of coincides with what I think this conversation might lean into, is an excerpt out of Insider Gaming. Denny Fish, a portfolio manager who oversees funds, including the reported $800 million of Microsoft stock, told the outlet that the the Activision has been quite disappointing, or has been disappointing. Uh, Microsoft was hoping that the purchase would convince players to sign up for the service, as well as push more studios to release their games on the subscription based platform. Instead, their sources say that the several leading game studios have resisted Microsoft's pitch that they should put their titles on Game Pass in exchange for fees that Microsoft offers to pay to game studios. All right, Matt, I'm going to let you lead this conversation because truthfully, I want to know what like the temperature in the room is as an Xbox fan, as someone who is watching this unfold and as someone who covers it. What's going on over there, man?
It's a good place to start because I think in regards to temperature of the room, I think it honestly depends on which Xbox fan slash player you speak to.
Yeah.
I think understandably from the portion of the community who has always valued Halo as an exclusive title, and I include myself in that bucket, by the way. Like Halo is the reason why I've always played on Xbox.
Yeah.
Halo has always been that staple title that has kept me buying into the ecosystem. It brings a lot of concern to long-time fans, the hardcore fan base, about what Xbox is doing and how it perceives its first party
Right.
offering. The reality in the gaming industry, as we've all seen, is there's a lot of layoffs, there are ballooning development costs. Everybody is scrapping for a finite amount of time because there are only so many hours in the day and there are so many games that people can play. And we see the same um, subset of titles like Fortnite and Call of Duty and GTA, Rainbow Six, like Apex, those sort of black hole games. They're
Yeah.
dominating player charts on most, if not all, platforms to some degree. And Microsoft has sort of tapped out its resource of console players and cloud users, more so console players, and its PC market in terms of who it's selling games to, and it wants to keep driving that forward. So the natural evolution in terms of who else can we sell this game to? Who else can we introduce this IP to that they don't know about? Hey, there's a massive audience on PlayStation who may never have played Gears of War, may never have played Halo, may never have played a Forza game.
Yeah.
They might be interested in some of that. Obviously, from the perspective of a fan of the gaming platform, it rings some alarm bells because I think we've grown up in this culture of exclusive titles driving systems, and I think to some extent they still do. Um, but every company is chasing more money because, as you've alluded to in the excerpt from Insider Gaming, um, shareholders want even more money
Yeah.
because apparently $800 million worth of Microsoft stock is too small.
I mean, that's what it kind of rings to me right now. Right? Which is like, it was, I think the thing that we didn't think about, it's something that I echo on the trophy room a lot. So I'm sorry I sound like a broken record, but we often think about, oh, how does this deal affect Activision when we were looking at
Hmm.
it and what games would be exclusive, what games weren't, when the honest conversation should have been, how does this change both of those studios? Because now there's more importance on Activision to deliver. There's more importance on Xbox to deliver. So,
Hmm.
I was reading the Jason Schreier book, Play Nice, and the one thing that happened to Blizzard, which he titles it "The Fall of Blizzard," is it became more important when Activision bought them or bought themselves, and all of a sudden Blizzard became what was part of this broader corporate structure that was doing well enough, but it was a small fish in a very large pond, to all of a sudden you are one of the largest fish in a equally sizable pond, and now all of a sudden your delays affect the stock price, your games affect the stock price. So
Mm-hmm.
that I feel like mirrors what we've seen from Xbox, which is originally Microsoft was a $2 trillion company. Xbox is a small fish in this ginormous pond. All of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, you make one of the biggest acquisitions in history, and your moves now affect the stock price. And
Yep.
so all of a sudden, the onus is, all right, how do we make all of this profitable? Not just Activision,
Mm-hmm.
but how do we make this all profitable?
Mm-hmm. I really empathize with the people running Xbox. Do not get that confused with the people running Microsoft.
Yeah,
I emphasize with the team running Xbox. I do not emphasize with the big money corporation that is
yeah,
Microsoft,
yeah.
um, because they are stuck between a rock and a hard place. Those being fans that don't want change, and Microsoft who want a hell of a lot more money. And that leads to really complicated conversations where it's really difficult to bring clear answers and clarity that consumers want, um, but executives can't really give
And
because things are fluid, things change.
and that's the one part where go on into the insider gaming where they're disappointed with the acquisition. They
Mm,
talk a lot about cloud, right? They talk about Azure, the Microsoft servers that they run, and how Activision has still yet to adopt that technology and drop the Amazon tech and Google tech that they have been using. And that
mm,
echoes into what they not I think not so much maybe they believe in at this very point in time, but where they think and where they want the industry to be in the next 5 years. And when we talk about
mhm,
this is an Xbox, right? I've seen a lot of people the messaging of that, or not even
mm,
messaging the aggravation from fans of like, well, what about my box? This was the most important
mhm.
thing, and it's like, no, it's to me, it's like the harsh reality is like, no, it's not. It used to be, but this acquisition changed
It
things,
it is
and
one of a few important things, and I
exactly,
think that's something that I'm in the content that I make, and I am going to take a second to very quickly
please
plug a
plug.
specific video on my channel.
Yeah.
Um, the I did a video that got picked up by Xbox. It got picked up by Xbox's head of social. I've since had Phil Spencer follow me on Twitter, which is
Nice.
kind of cool.
Yeah.
I put out a video called Xbox Ad Explained by
Yeah.
someone who works in advertising. I work in advertising for a living. I broke down the this is an Xbox ad and sort of pointed out why it was causing the
The
discourse that it
rift.
was, but
Yeah.
actually that this ad was disruptive by design.
Yep.
And in that video, there's a really important part that I focus on. Um, Basically, the Xbox console hardware is still important to Microsoft because it's a valuable entry point into its ecosystem, but it is not the only way into its ecosystem, and that really is the messaging of this is an Xbox and what that particular ad is trying to achieve, because Xbox is not just a console. It is obviously still a console that you can buy and you can use, but Xbox is a platform or an ecosystem, and this is the type of language that is now used and has been used at Microsoft for some time. By the way, like that's not new at all. The idea of Xbox being an ecosystem goes back to at very least the Xbox One generation, if not a little bit before,
Yeah.
when you started having things like okay, they didn't really implement it very well, but they tried something briefly with like Windows Live, I think, to sort of
Right.
try and it didn't work, but that was their attempt at
Yeah.
what
And
now
now this is
works in a much more
their
seamless
yeah.
way.
And now this is their hey, listen, an Xbox can be something that is concrete, something that you can go out buy for either
Mhm,
300 to 600 bucks, whatever suits your
mhm,
fancy. It could also be your Steam Deck. It can also be an app on your phone. It could also be an app on your iPad, a laptop, your TV, whatever. It's this broad and all encompassing thing that we're trying
mhm,
to uh, introduced to you guys, right?
T-
And what it could even be, at least the way I see it, and maybe we could debate a little back and forth, is it could also just be games you play on other consoles, and that is
Mhm.
your other entry point. The way I see Xbox
Exactly.
is like they own Call of Duty, they own Sea of Thieves, they own all these really big IP with really big communities attached to them now. They own Overwatch, etc. Um, they now have to connect those ecosystems, and they have to do best by them and grow those
Hmm.
communities as well. And so if you are Xbox, you're going, hey, what's the best for the community and even ecosystem within Halo? How
Hmm.
do we
Hmm.
grow Gears of War? How do we grow
Yeah.
Forza? And it becomes this a deeper conversation of we've
Hmm.
tapped the vein all we can. We dried out this well here. There are people that
Yeah.
are interested on other places to play these games, just not enough to
Hmm.
buy this console, but they are here. Let's introduce them to this.
Hmm. And I think that that springs off into a couple of really interesting talking points.
Yeah,
So, like the first one specifically about the IP, Halo especially, as I said at the beginning, Halo is a really dear thing to me in terms of a gaming IP, in
likewise.
terms of a franchise. It's it was I I've gamed for most of my life, pretty much all of my waking life. I remember playing games when I was about 3, 4
Same.
on the Sega Mega Drive in the UK. I grew up, like properly grew up on the PS1. I was so stoked about the PS2 when that came out, and I I remember playing Halo 1 for the first time, and it just captured my brain in a way that nothing else had. It just resonated with me. And from then on, like going back to what we were saying, of course, exclusives on an ecosystem, not just a console, because like I said, those words are now interchangeable.
Yep.
In the eyes of Xbox, whether fans like it or not, those words are completely interchangeable now because ecosystem and console are one and the same thing in the eyes of Xbox. They don't necessarily function in the same way, and that is some of the issue that actually lies at the heart with the this is an Xbox ad, because you can't get every Xbox game
Yeah.
on a phone or a tablet or a laptop or whatever, but you count on an Xbox console. That's sort of where the mixed messaging goes. But to get back to my point about the Halo IP, um, i- I care more about the health and well-being of the Halo IP
Hmm.
and the studio that makes it, no matter how much wrong 343 did. But it's Halo Studios now, and I'm going to give them the
Yeah.
benefit of the doubt because they have to do better by this franchise, please.
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 Listen, the switch to Unreal,
I
I'm
care.
excited.
I,
Yes. Yeah.
I care more about the health of Halo than I do the health of Xbox. Halo is an IP that, like I said, I really care about. If other people get to experience Halo and they fall in love with it the same way I did, that's so good for Halo. It's
Yeah.
so good for Gears.
Yeah.
And in turn, that should be very good for Xbox because they are benefiting from a la carte sales on other
Yeah.
platforms. They are sparking new interest in IP that had previously been walled off to other console users. So to go back to your point about um, this is an Xbox almost being like a move to push a secondary system onto somebody, and this is something I really wanted to put straight to chat. By the way,
Please.
if anyone listening or anyone in chat, if you guys are um if you have a PS4 or you have a PS5 and you've never played an Xbox and you're quite interested in Indiana Jones, I implore you to go and check that out via Xbox Cloud Gaming. It's super easy. You can do it in a web browser going to xbox.com/play. As long as you have an account, you could find a trial. You could go and buy fucking 14 days worth of Game Pass Ultimate on CD keys and treat
Yeah.
yourself to 2 weeks of gaming on Xbox.
Yeah.
Go and have a play with the library because the cloud system, the cloud experience, in my experience, has been really, really good.
Dude, I've been playing it on
And
a Steam Deck via cloud. And I was,
It's awesome, man.
yeah, it was like, okay, all right there,
It's
bud.
so cool.
Yeah.
I think that's what the This Is an Xbox ad does a really good
Yes.
job of selling. So, like, again, if you don't have an Xbox console and you haven't tried any of the Xbox library,
I,
check out Indiana Jones on cloud gaming before you decide to buy it, before you cough up the 70 monies, because you're gonna have to.
yeah.
But you could try it fairly cheaply on Game Pass.
And I think I think what you said there, especially about Indiana, and especially about cloud, speaks true. Where I think a lot of us folks that are listening, listen, I know our demographic. We remember Sega. We remember what happened, and there are some hurt feelings there of like
Of
Sega
course, there are. There's
letting
some serious
PlayStation have.
PTSD, man.
Exactly. And some people are having that PTSD again. And it's like,
Yeah.
this is what Sega letting them have King of Fighter. And then this is the downfall of us all. And and I get it. Because to an extent, I see that as the reality here too. It's Xbox going, all right, listen, our somehow somehow Palpatine's returned and our consoles are still not selling the way that they should.
Don Matrick has managed to make his way back
Exactly.
into marketing, and no one asked him to.
He put a Connect back in, and you know, and all of a sudden, you're still getting beaten or beatens or whatever. You're trailing your competition 3-1, 4-1, whatever the number is. You're still trailing them, and you're going, okay. We need to reimagine what the battlefield looks like, because the traditional way of fighting these guys is not working.
It's changed completely. Like
It-
in the old days, when Sega existed before it died,
yeah,
everything was predicated on physical media.
yeah,
So if you wanted to switch systems, switch ecosystems, because that word is actually interchangeable for PlayStation as well. It's actually just not made the same moves at the same cadence that Xbox
absolutely.
has, but it's going that way.
And that's the one
Um,
thing that I try to tell like the trophy room community all the time.
mhm.
Our community gets it. Sometimes the YouTube comments don't. It's like, dude, PlayStation's making the similar moves. They're just doing it
Mm,
4 or 5 years a
yeah.
little late. And
If
that
you're
affords them
locked into a digital ecosystem, it's harder to move from there. Xbox has
100%.
recognized that and gone, okay, we know we're not going to win over these PlayStation players by selling them a £300 box or a £500 box, because they're just not going to
They're
do
locked
it,
in.
because it's really expensive and they've already bought all their stuff. So what can we do that's different? So again, chat, podcast audio listeners, check it out on cloud,
Yeah.
and that is the experience that Microsoft is offering you
And
if you don't want to buy into their hardware.
and the truth to that too is like, as someone who owns a PlayStation, and I'm gonna be real with you, a few years back sold my Xbox and I just wasn't using it enough. I
I'm
went out
kidding.
I went out and I bought a Steam Deck, right?
Mhm,
And that the reason why I did was is like it was the different form factor. And then all of a sudden it's opened me up to Steam, an ecosystem I wouldn't have gotten any other
mhm.
way. And sometimes it's just by the change of form factor that gets you in. And now I'm looking at the Steam Deck going, this is something they have lightning in the bottle here, man. This is,
Mhm.
man, they have something truly special. And so
That's going to be a very interesting player in this space going
100
forward as well. Like, we're already hearing talk about like a console box, like
again,
Steam entering the console war.
right?
If
I
we're still gonna observe such a ridiculous psychodrama that exists in this space,
and I
then
think that's
Steam's about to take part in it.
yeah. And I think that's a real conversation that these companies are having too. This isn't happening
Mhm.
in a vacuum. So like when
No.
I take a look at what's happening in Xbox, for me, my final thought is like, if this was solely about only about consoles, yes, run for the hills, it's over. But this is a bigger play. This is a
Mhm.
bigger idea that they have. Do I think it'll work out or not? I have no idea. But it's their play that they're making to reimagine the battlefield
Yeah.
for how they
Mhm.
can make the most money that they can make. Where
Mhm.
PlayStation, they're still about their digital box, right? They're still about the box is the center of the ecosystem. But even
Mhm.
you see them talking about, hey, how do we get margins, How do we
Hmm.
shrink the margins? How do we sell more of these copies of these games? And you're
Hmm.
seeing them making PC ports of their games. So
We're
it's
seeing them make dangerous mistakes with things like Concord as well. Like they're
exactly.
getting riskier. Budgets are going up. Like that's why they're selling games on PC,
Yeah,
because the risk is getting too great. And I think Sony has a pretty good track record, a pretty good bag in terms of having those reliable a la carte sales for its big single player first party titles. But in the same breath, they might be able to cover their own costs over time,
yeah,
but there's a finite amount of money that they can make unless they start churning out DLC, which means spending more money and more time and more resources on it. So they want more of those black hole titles to eh, keep players putting money in,
yeah,
to keep those games profitable, to help fund new projects. Like Xbox is doing the same thing. It's just having to target a different audience.
yeah,
Just like PlayStation is targeting a different audience with PC, there's this sort of mutual benefit that's happening throughout the industry. I think what does upset some corners of the Xbox fan base is that they're not necessarily getting anything in quote unquote return,
right.
but corporations couldn't give a shit about that. Like that's not their problem.
Yeah.
I,
I
I
think
bought a PS5 because I wanted to catch up on a bunch of stuff that I missed on PS3, PS4.
yeah,
By the way, playing through the Uncharted series for the
yeah.
first time,
God bless,
I
right?
love it so much,
So
dude.
good, dude.
It's I've finished one, I've nearly finished two.
God, such a
Oh,
good game. Such a good game.
yeah, I'm having a
Yeah.
really good time with two.
Good. God bless. Yeah, no,
Really good time with two. Cool.
we're in a really strange time, especially if people think that it's all about the console now, and
Hmm.
we're in the shifting era where it's like it's not anymore, and we're seeing new players emerge, and we're seeing other players take a step back, and we're
Hmm.
seeing players, and when I mean players, I mean companies reevaluate things. And so when I take a look at like Halo and Gears, yeah, as a PlayStation fan who again, um, as a, and I at nauseum love Halo, I love Gears. They are some of the most formative games in my childhood. I love them immensely. Always will. Oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I love those games. But for me, when I take a look at like why I cover PlayStation, why I prefer that ecosystem, it comes
Hmm.
down to the developer. I really
Yeah.
love Santa Monica. I really
Hmm.
love Sucker Punch. You know, I really love Naughty Dog. Those games, yeah, love Insomniac. Those studios are why I cut my teeth on this brand.
Hmm.
It's not because Shuhei Yoshida follows me on Twitter. It's because like no, these developers are the folks that
Hmm.
are making some of
Yeah.
my favorite games, and we often lose
Absolutely.
track of that when we're like doing well, this month the PlayStation 5. It's like nah, I don't. I don't care who outsold who. I just want to
Oh
play
my god.
play games.
I find that particular flavor of discourse like quite ridiculous. Like
Yeah,
I've talked about this with Xbox Era as well. Console sales are one data point in this really big sea of data points.
yeah,
We don't see Xbox talk about how cloud is growing, for example. Um we don't see companies talk about how much time users are spending on their platforms. We don't see how much money users are spending on these platforms. Like console sales is one part of it.
yeah.
And I think it's become, not to sort of get a bit tribal here, but it's become very popular on the blue side of the fence to just bang the console sales drum because Sony wins it over and over and over again.
And
Like it's nothing
it's
new, man.
Yeah, and it to me is you're right. It's one data point. I think you're also seeing like it's all about easy metrics for people to track. Like I saw when
Mm.
this news originally started pouring out, I saw a lot of the Team Green folks going, "Okay, but if you actually look at the stock prices of Microsoft, it goes up and Sony go down. So actually, Ekbang win." It's like, "No,
it's
dude,
just
I
it's
think you're
all just
stupid."
ridiculous tit for tat.
Yes.
it's why I call Twitter the toilet app, because I
Truly is.
cannot stand the depths that conversation on Twitter has just sank to for the most part. It's
It's
really
something
silly.
else. It's really something else.
It's
That
something
said,
else.
Matt, I loved our talk. Thank you
This was
so
good.
much for coming on, sharing your insight, and honestly, I had a blast. Next time, hopefully, we could have you on for the full episode. We could catch you on a time zone that is beneficial for both of us. You know what I'm saying?
I'll try and book some I'll book some time off work and we'll make that happen.
Yeah, next time, whenever I hit the UK, whether you're in Jersey, New Jersey
Oh hell
proper,
yeah.
let's do this.
Yeah, that would
That
be cool.
said, you know where to find Deadly Headley, but if you don't, please, Matt, tell people where they can find you.
Well, a couple of bits of homework that I would say anyone who has been interested in this conversation today. There are 3 videos on my channel that I would recommend you go and watch. The first one is the This is an Xbox ad explained video. The second one, which is by far my favorite, please go and give it some love because it is criminally underwatched on my channel. It's a video that talks about the implications of Xbox publishing Halo on PlayStation. It was a video that I actually put out towards the end of last year when rumors first started circling, because these rumors aren't actually new.
Nope.
It introduces the concept of what I like to refer to as the gateway drug strategy, where basically I think what Xbox wants to achieve with this move of putting games like Halo and Gears on PlayStation is to spark new interest and love for an IP that they haven't been able to play before. So it's brand new to them. And if they go, hey, I want some more of that, the best way that they can access that now is, like we talked about, Xbox Cloud Gaming. It is more accessible than before because that cost of entry is so much lower. So the other video that I would recommend, the third and final one, is it's a no red lines video. Go and have some fun on my channel. If you haven't seen my content before, I'm really proud of the stuff that's on there. I am a graphic designer for a living. I have a journalism degree, so I do kind of know my shit. And I try and keep the console warring element out of it for the most part. I mean, who doesn't have some fun with it,
I
right?
like to have a
But
little
yeah,
bit of
I
fun.
do actually
Yeah.
take my channel quite seriously.
Yeah.
So.
Honestly, the content that I've seen from you, no red lines in particular, is fantastic. So everybody, please,
Thank you.
please, please, please check a look. Link down below in the description for all that goodness. And with that said, let's get back to the show.